Welcome back, everyone. The iPhone XR and the iPhone XS Max came out a few years ago, back in 2018, and these phones were actually quite a bit different but very similar at the same time. The iPhone XS Max was that flagship $1,000 phone at the time, where the iPhone XR was that $749 somewhat budget phone, but it really wasn't. That came out relatively the same amount of time. I think the XR was a little bit delayed, but the XS Max and the XS were available the same day as far as I remember. So, if you want to pick up either one of these phones, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. Now, the iPhone XR is definitely the more popular option here. I would say you're definitely getting a much more, I guess, a longer lasting phone from both of these because they have the same chipset and everything. The XS Max is better. It's supposed to be a flagship, but there are some areas that the XR was better when it first came out, and it still kind of holds up. I think a lot more people talk about this phone nowadays than the iPhone XS Max, in my opinion. But with the iPhone XS Max, you're getting a beautiful 6.5-inch display on this. It's an OLED panel versus the 6.1-inch IPS panel on the iPhone, XR. And this one definitely feels more like a flagship. You're getting on this one a matte texture because I have a skin on it, but you're getting this really nice feeling band on the side of it. I mean, it feels like a $1,000 phone still. And when I compare it to my iPhone 13 Pro Max, definitely that phone feels more premium, but this one does not feel like a cheap phone. And I'm really happy with the approach that, Apple did at this specific time. However, there are definitely some differences and some annoyances between both models that I'll get into in a second. Thickness and thickness, about the same thing, not really that big of a difference. They both feel very, very premium. And on the back, we have glass backs on both. Like I mentioned, I do have this little texture on the skin on the back of my iPhone XS Max, but both these still look really good. And both wireless charging on the back, single camera setup on the XR, dual camera setup on the XS Max, and overall lightning ports at the bottom too. Definitely when I talk about the outside of both these, both feel very premium, both hold up very well, IP certification as well. But the XS Max is probably the more premium feeling one, so that's something where I side a little bit more with the XS Max over the iPhone XR in my opinion. Now, in terms of longevity, this is something that's going to be changing very soon. Not necessarily for these two devices, but the concept of the $1,000 phone and the $749 phone, these have the same internals for the most part except for a gigabyte of RAM, so you're getting the same amount of longevity between them because Apple most of the time does their software updates via the chipset inside. Now it's looking like with the iPhone 14s, Apple is going to be putting a year-old chipset on the iPhone 14, and the 14 Pro is going to be having a little bit of a more expensive one. This one was the Pro Max of that time, even though this is the XS Max, this was the Pro Max of that model. The XR is going to be basically that base iPhone 14. So these two phones are going to be lasting around the same time, but now it's going to be looking like the concept of these two phones is going to be changing quite a bit now, which is very interesting. So I will tell you for that, these two phones are lasting the same amount of time. Same exact software on them too right now, which is so cool to see. I love having this type of phones with this type of software. It looks very, very beautiful. And honestly, I'm excited for the future of both these phones too. So that covers it up there. Now let's go into a speed comparison between both these phones. They both have that Apple A12 Bionic chip inside of it, but the iPhone XR has that 3GB of RAM option inside, where the iPhone XS Max has 4GB of RAM. So let's go and see which one is the faster one between both of these. Okay, there we go. Let's go and clear the apps in the background. As you can see, the XR has all of them cleared out, where the iPhone XS Max does not. So let's go and clear out of all these, and it should only take one more second. There we go. So let's get into it. XS Max is here, XR is here. Phone calls 3, 2, 1. I think the XS Max is a little bit faster. App Store 3, 2, 1. And the iPhone XS Max was faster. And this is something I've been saying with, for some reason, on my iPhone XR. It's been hurt really badly on iOS 15. These two phones, same versions of software for the most part, both on iOS 15. So it's weird that we're even seeing a speed difference. We really shouldn't be. Mail 3, 2, 1. iPhone XS Max again is the faster one. Camera 3, 2, 1. Let's go and take a photo. I think the XR took a photo faster, so I guess that's one side. Photos 3, 2, 1. XS Max again is the faster one there. Hopping out of these ones, let's go into iTunes Store 3, 2, 1. I think the iPhone XR was faster, but both were actually very, very close. Hopping out of this one, let's go and get into something like Settings 3, 2, 1. About the same thing. Hopping out of this one, let's go and get into Stocks 3, 2, 1. I think the iPhone XS Max was a little bit faster, but they did load into that panel. I shouldn't have done that so early. Now, we do have a bunch of these third-party apps between them too, so let's go and get into it. Quizlet 3, 2, 1. XS Max again is the faster one. Netflix 3, 2, 1. Again, the XS Max is the faster one. Snake First Blocks 3, 2, 1. Again, the XS Max is the faster one. XR a little bit behind. Thank you 3, 2, 1. About the same thing, not really that big of a difference here. Hopping out of this one, let's go and get into stack 3, 2, 1. And I think about the same thing. There really wasn't that big of a difference here. Hopping out of these ones, let's go and get into Fruit Ninja 3, 2, 1. And I totally messed this one up. So we'll just go and load them both up in the background, and we'll go ahead and probably at some point load back into them, hopefully, and we'll just see which one is the faster one there. So we'll just kind of load this one up. Okay, they're both kind of the same page. Let's go and hop out of here. Let's do Facebook 3, 2, 1. Okay, Tennis Max again is the faster one. Twitter 3, 2, 1. A little bit of a delay on the iPhone XR for sure when I loaded that one up. Hopping out of here, Temple Run 2, 3, 2, 1. Now, I'm actually fairly kind of shocked about the iPhone XR and the fact that that device is actually this much slower than the iPhone XS Max. These two phones, like I mentioned, should theoretically be the same speed almost. And there really shouldn't be any situation where the iPhone XR is this much slower than the iPhone XS Max. So this comparison, I'm actually pretty shocked. I'll probably have to make another follow-up video on the iPhone XR just because I'm actually pretty shocked about how weird performing this phone is in my opinion, especially on this version of software. So that kind of covers it up there. Now let's go and hit on the cameras. Like I mentioned, single camera setup on the iPhone XR, wide angle lens, 12 megapixels. The iPhone XS Max dual camera setup, a wide and telephoto lens. We do have the telephoto lens here, which is nice. 4K at 60 on the back of both these, 1080p at 60 on the front of both these as well. Now with the iPhone XR, I think this camera at the time was a little different because we were coming from a dual camera setup on the iPhone 8 Plus, and then we were switching to this one. I didn't really know how I felt about it, but I do think nowadays it's kind of grown on me, and it's a little bit of a better camera setup than when it first came out. We still have portrait mode, which is cool. Not a lot of movement with the newer iPhones that we've had. We've definitely had some improvements here and there with cinematic mode and ultra-wide sensors and all that stuff, but this camera and the features inside are still relatively the same as they were on the other phones. So I think as of right now, this camera is still not bad. And I will definitely say the iPhone XS Max camera is the better one for sure. I mean, this is going to be the better option out of all of these, and that's something that's always good to see. Whenever we have a phone like these two, I'm glad that the more expensive one has more options out there, but there's always a lot of advantages with having the newest camera. So definitely with something like the iPhone 12 or 13, that ultra-wide sensor is something I prefer a lot more than these telephoto lenses, but these are still better lenses, the same image quality you have between them, but the XS Max is probably the better camera when it comes down to it. Now, for those of you who don't remember, the iPhone XS Max actually had worse battery life than the iPhone XR initially. Since then, it's actually improved, I think, a little bit, but it's still not that great. For how big this phone is and for how great of a jump the iPhone 11 Pro Max was, how great of a battery life that thing had, I'm still surprised how weird of a battery life this thing had at the time, and I feel like, Apple could have done a little bit of a better job. So ultimately, to kind of sum up this video, I think the iPhone XS Max is more of a flagship still, but there are some things about this phone that rub me the wrong way. But now on iOS 15, there are some things that rub me the wrong way about this phone. So the XS Max, the good, beautiful display, great build quality, great performance, good camera still for the most part, wireless charging, IP certification, and you're still getting a couple software years of software, and you're still getting some years of software updates, which is nice. On the iPhone XR, on the other hand, you can find this thing for substantially cheaper than the XS Max. Great build quality, it looks beautiful, I love it a lot. The battery life may be better on this phone, but with iOS 15, it's been taking a toll, and I don't know how I feel about it nowadays. I think there was a time where this phone was like my favorite one to recommend, and I still recommend it a lot, but I just don't understand what's going on with this phone, and I really hope Apple kind of fixes it, to be honest. So that kind of covers it up for the most part. If you guys have any other questions or anything, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.